3, 2, 1.
This is Bruno LARVOL, and this is LARVOL and Friends, a weekly podcast. And this week we are in Austin, Texas, for Decentral and for Consensus, two crypto conference, NFT conferences. And we have a very special guest today who actually fits with the theme of NFT, crypto, and art. Is a dear friend of LARVOL, and we met recently in Brussels. He is both a professional in the communication field, but he's also an artist, a digital artist, and his name is Jesús Azogue. So welcome to the podcast, and we're very happy to have you today.
Thank you very much. It's me who is very happy and honored to be here with you and to discuss again about NFTs and the metaverse and all the possibilities of art in the digital space.
Well, this is a terrific topic. Before we shift to that topic, I have to do a brief infomercial about LARVOL. That's my fiduciary responsibility. So LARVOL is a SaaS company. We sell software and we sell data to the pharmaceutical and healthcare industry. And we're grateful to all of our customers. Some of them might be listening today. And so LARVOL and Friends sometimes talks about business, sometimes talks about the pharmaceutical industry, and sometimes talks about other topics. And you fit in that third category. So today we're gonna talk about NFT and digital art. And I before we start, I also want to make a bit of a disclosure, which is I'm a collector, a small collector of digital art, and I'm very fortunate to own a wonderful piece from Jesús called The Waiting Room. And it's a great piece actually that is displayed in Digital Art Museum. And I just want to say a little thing about this museum. So a year ago, in the middle of the pandemic, we organized a night at the museum on the side of the most important cancer conference called Azogue that just finished in Chicago. And we invited a large group of physicians, oncologists, and professionals to the museum. And one of the art was that painting from Jesús Azogue. Now, it's an NFT, and some people listening might know everything about NFTs. Others do not. So I'm going to turn to you, actually, Jesús, and ask you to explain what NFTs and what digital art are, and what's the difference. And then we'll talk about your professional journey and your art as well. So I'll ask you to be a little bit the communicator to explain simply the topic first.
Okay, good. I think many people is here in this world of NFT and actually this word, this concept, but still not everybody completely understand what is it about. So NFT stands for non-fungible token, meaning that it's like a digital element that actually cannot be replaced by another one, let's say. Like, for example, a coin. If I give you a coin and then you give it away to somebody else, and then later on you receive another one, the value that you had on the first and on the second is the same. So actually you can replace one by the other. So it's like a token that is exchangeable, yeah? The NFT is actually one that is unique and you cannot replace it. It's similar to what happens on the wall in the reality with the artworks, in the sense that, for example, if I give you the Mona Lisa and then you have it, so you are the owner of the Mona Lisa, but if I break it, then actually there is nothing that can replace it. So then, as it is unique, then that's why the value of that can increase a lot, because it's an an element that cannot be replaced by another one. Now, normally by default, digital elements are reproducible infinitely. Yeah, so we can reproduce them as far as we want. If we create a JPEG of an image, and then we create another JPEG, both of them are identically the same, equal. So then it was very difficult in the digital art space to sell this kind of pieces, because then the value was lower, because you can reproduce as many times as you want. Okay, thanks to the blockchain and the inclusion of a series of data that goes around that visual, then actually, and then enclosing and let's say like minting or making like a unique element of that is making it an NFT. Then from that moment, that element becomes unique. Doesn't mean that you cannot take a JPEG apart and use that JPEG, but actually you are using then, or you are having like a reproduction of that unique element. So is that one, the one that has the metadata around that, is the one unique that you can then buy or give as a gift or to somebody, and then that person who has it is the owner of that specific element. I don't know if I explain it okay, but I try to be quite accessible and easy.
Thank you for that explanation. So this is a non-fungible token, so it's a unique token, and the technology of the blockchain is used to guarantee that it's unique. Indeed. And of course, a big part of art is uniqueness and ownership. Who owns that piece of digital art? So the possibilities are endless, and some of you have heard about crazy situations where even art, such as art or visual expression, some people might say I'm thinking about the bored apes, for example, or more recently the goblin. So in some cases, it's art, I would argue. In other cases, these are generative renditions. For example, the most famous one is a bored ape. Another one, CryptoPunks. There's a series of these, and people use them in their avatar profile on social media as well. So I'd like to shift topics a little bit. But before that, I'd like to ask the audience, everybody who's listening, to if they have access to, in parallel with listening, to Google Jesús Azogue's name, and to be able to look at some of his art in parallel. So you can even look at the piece in particular called The Waiting Room, which, as I mentioned, I own, or many of his other art. And one of the distinctive aspects is that you will see many of his art have a special character in it, a panda, that very distinctive, and sometimes dances. And Jesús is going to explain us a little bit in a second about all of that. But before that, tell us about your personal journey and professional journey. And I know we met in Brussels, but you're not from Brussels originally. So maybe a little bit about your personal and professional journey, and then how your artistic expression developed and led you to look at digital art and NFTs.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, actually, so basically I come from a very traditional space in terms of art. I come from Sevilla, or a village beside Sevilla, Alcalá de Guadaira, where there is a traditional school of art based on the École de Barbizon at the time, it's like landscaping, paintings school, because all the village is surrounded by very beautiful landscapes of the river, the Guadaira River, that is going around the city, where you have then like a water mills there, and that creates like a very romantic and beautiful space that was the inspiration for many painters along the last 2-3 centuries. And I was raised into that traditional space. And when I was getting more and more into art as an adolescent or in the youth, then I was more and more interested on computers, no, or on digital space. I had my first computer, I had it with 11 years. So it was around this 80s, middle of the 80s. And then from there, I was always trying to see the possibilities of creating or using the computer as a way of making some visual creations, no, or creating experiences. And that I was always having with me. So even when I studied fine art and all that, I was always seeing what are the possibilities of digital in terms of creating new ways of aesthetics or new visual elements. And that is what brought me here to Brussels, because Sevilla was still quite traditional, and I was looking for more into interactive video games and digital art. And here in Brussels, there was a master in transmedia. That is what I did. And when I came to Brussels, it was at the beginning as a student, so sometimes it's not easy to live in a city that is not yours, and you end like having different kind of student jobs and all that. And one of the student jobs that I got was as a photographer in one of the one of the more touristic areas here in Brussels, no, that is near the Atomium. So there is a space called Mini Europe, where there are little representations of buildings of Europe and all that. Okay, so there I was a photographer welcoming the visitors, and there was a mascot that was like a big turtle. And I was taking pictures of the people with the mascot. Okay, there were some moments that the mascot had to go for lunch or something, and then while the mascot wasn't there, I had to dress myself as a mascot. Yeah. So then, in that moment, the people who were dressed as the mascot, they were called the artist, or the l'artiste comédien, yeah, in French. So then I was like, okay, all my life I wanted to be an artist, and this is the kind of artist that I became. You see, like being here like a mascot receiving tourists and all that. I'm dancing and I'm making fun for people, which is very respectful and all that. But that was at the same time making me feel like, okay, the concept of art is so wide and it's all the time evolving. And at the same time, there are many people that are kind of living from that we call art, that is not only the ones who are exhibiting in galleries and all that. So I use that as a metaphor of actually how the art is continuously evolving and changing and all that. And I use the idea of the performer being dressed as something more than a turtle. Then I shifted to a panda, and I'm using the panda like to showcase this fact of artists. We are everywhere, and we're doing plenty of things, and we're all the time performing, and make the life a bit easier or funnier for the people who are around us. No, I don't know, just a bit like a joke. So basically, all my stay here in Brussels since that moment as a student, all that gave me the opportunity to investigate more into the digital space. And for several years, it's 20 years that I'm already in Brussels. For 20 years, I was experimenting and checking what are the possibilities of the digital space in terms of interaction, in terms of creation on the 3D environment and all that. And lately, all the development that have happened with the metaverse and the augmented reality and virtual reality is bringing like a space where I feel very comfortable. On the other hand, I've been working as a creative for an agency, Zeden, here in Brussels for almost 16 years. Also, that has permitted me to develop all the creativity and to learn and experiment with the creativity in the digital space, and are always playing with messages that are addressed to a particular audience and all that. So that was giving me like tools or ways of working on the creative space that is not necessarily being in front of a canvas and making a painting, but more like experimenting and to work with other teams, with other people, collaborating, having projects that are developed. So that was quite a big experience that brought me where I am today. So and now I'm more experimenting still and playing with the digital creation on many levels, where the panda, if you want, we can continue discussing about it, where the panda is kind of a metaphor or a kind of a symbol that I'm using as my own avatar.
Now, there's a lot in what you said that I'd love to discuss, but I have to pick, so to
Yeah.
speak. The concept that we all performers, I think, is a very powerful concept, and the idea that we have maybe a costume, but it's us behind it, and maybe we play a role, but at the same time, we are an individual, and we can be both at the same time. And you know that I spend a lot of time in the metaverse, and so a lot of your artistic journey around the costume, the panda with a costume, it links to the concept of the avatar, of course, in the metaverse, right? An avatar needs to be respected like a person, because it's a person with a headset on who made certain choices of a certain way of presenting itself to the digital world. So one thing I love about your art, and by the way, your art is becoming famous very quickly. You exhibited, and everybody's talking about you on social media and otherwise. So if anybody wants to acquire digital art, this is a wonderful artist to work with, and to be an early collector of his art. So I really recommend that everybody looks at Jesús Azogue's art. And again, take the name on the screen and Google it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So here's a question I have. I think you use a hashtag #WeTheArtist. Can you elaborate on that hashtag?
Exactly. That's the point. I was wondering myself, what is the position of the artist nowadays in such big revolution that we're living with, that you're saying? I mean, the metaverse, all the digital revolution is bringing so many possibilities, so in terms of creating, and at the same time the concept of art is so wide that I feel myself like lost in a crowd, of artists and all that. I mean, if you think about like 200 years ago, being an artist was like a luxury, more or less, no? Because you not only about having the skills, but also having the means and the possibility of bringing your artwork to the people or to the audience. It wasn't so easy. Nowadays we have, with just having a phone on our hands, you have so many tools there to express yourself, no? So I was saying, like, okay, where is the situation or the position of the artist nowadays on that front? And I was kind of using this hashtag, like the idea of, okay, art, we the artists, we are everywhere, and in many places. And I use the panda to be placed on different spaces, as it is digital, and as it is a kind of avatar or symbol of that. I go to art fairs or to events and all that, and then suddenly I place with augmented reality the panda performing there. I'm playing with these ideas that actually we the artists, we are on all the spaces. I like it also as a kind of movement, no, in the sense that, okay, if you look at these people that are dressed, in New York, in Times Square, and in many places, you can see these people dressed, with the customs and all that. Every time I see them, those are people also living from art, you see. And I wanted to bring this, I don't know, to focus on that as a metaphor of how actually creativity nowadays is in our hands and in all of us. So we are, as you say, performers, but at the same time we're creators, because nowadays it's not just one person who is bringing a message to the audience, like actually with the big artists and all that, but it's like actually all of us are artists that are continuously creating, recreating, adapting, changing, commenting, you see, and kind of having a kind of collaboration in terms of creativity that we didn't have before, you see. So I wanted to discuss about all that under this concept of we the artists.
sometimes I love to joke that French people are snobs, and there's some truth to that. Uh, in sometimes in the traditional view of art, there's a certain snobbery. Let's admit it. Um,
Yes.
what I love about your angle with the hashtag We the Artist and your explanation is that you are really looking at it as a sharing and not as a snob or elitist view that there is some people who are artists, they're chosen by God or somehow, or they're just geniuses and but other people cannot express themselves artistically without that expression being suspect. I love the fact that with We the Artist, you're really encouraging everybody to express themselves, to be their unique individual. And again, the symbol of the panda dancing is just beautiful to me. So I not only I love your art, I love your message. And by the way, I know it's a short podcast. We only have 9 minutes left. And at the end, we always ask our guests to share a giveaway or takeaway or both, a takeaway for the audience. So I'll let you think about it, but there's so much in what you do that I'm sure you'll have no problem finding a phrase or an expression that we can write down as a takeaway from these 30 minutes we spent together. Before that, I want to go back to the NFT concept. So I know some artists, Damien Hirsch, I'm talking about snobbery, I think, is Damien Hirsch had a series where people could buy the NFT, and then by a certain date, they could decide to only keep the digital art, and he will destroy the physical art or destroy the NFT, and they would receive the physical painting that he generated. And so right now, my question is, how do you practically sell your art, your digital art, between the physical and the digital, the NFT, whether you do multiple copies of the same exact painting, or how do you use NFTs as support for your art?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So actually, it depends of the relation with the client or with the person who wants, or the collector that wants to have it. You know, for example, you know that the piece that you have is completely unique. So there is no, it's one-on-one on NFT space, and that's all. There is no print version of that, and so you have the unique piece of that. And you know, there is a document that certifies that and all. So that's one case. In others, what I do is series of, for example, of 5 on a particular format on print, and then others in NFT. Or I make a lot of them that are NFTs on one-on-one. A big part of my NFTs are one-on-one on NFT, and then I have, for example, some prints. If somebody acquires the NFT and say, no, I don't want to have any print, and it's a completely new one, that can be the case. For example, I'm preparing right now a piece that is going to be exhibited in near the commission, because they're going to put a series of paintings and work around the European Commission here in Belgium. And for that one, there will be only that print, and then the rest is going to be exclusively NFTs, for example. So I define more or less which one is the one. I personally, I don't feel so good about printing the pieces, because I normally do them directly in digital. You see, so for me, the natural space of my work is digital. So that's why I feel the NFT space like the place for that, and then later on to put it on digital spaces. You see, so I prefer normally to have it like that more than having to print. I feel like printing is like bringing them outside of their natural space, you know. But but I understand that we are living with a big tradition on our back, that still we need to keep moving. Yeah.
Yourself, in the world of digital art and NFT digital art, who do you look up to? Who do you have the highest respect to, or anybody you would like to make a shout out to, whether they're already famous or maybe they're not famous, but anybody you would like to mention?
In the NFT, there are two people that I think, or there are several, okay, but I've been following a lot on the way that they're working. I think, for example, Krista Kim is a good reference for me, in the sense of how actually she has built a whole image of herself around the metaverse and the creation of NFTs as a way of bringing her work online. She did these beautiful installations in New York also. So I like her a lot. Also, somebody that is a very good drawer, and then suddenly he saw how actually to bring his skills as a drawer in the digital space is Sabet. And I like the way that he's been creating all his drawings and all that, and then distributing them through the digital space. So those two, for me, are somebody that I follow quite closely.
So I heard about Krista came in previous conversation with other colleagues. For Sabet, is it? I'm trying to think about whether that's the one I saw in Paris. Very stylized, often female figures with flowers.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
That's it. Okay. Wonderful. Yes. Yeah. And I know his art is very appreciated. I think that was one of the most expensive NFT in the exhibit I saw in Paris at Paris Blockchain Week. Yes. So thank you for all of that. As we're about to close the call, I'd like to go now to that the takeaway, and and so what would you like to leave as a message for the audience today?
I could finish with a sentence that is, I believe that the metaverse goes as far as our imagination can grow. You see, like, I mean, the metaverse can, or the other way around, the metaverse can grow as much as our imagination can go. You see, so I'm bringing this because we are right now starting to create a space that can be infinite, and that we don't need necessarily have to bring the normal physics that we have on this world. It can be completely different. You see, I know that by on all the starting points, we need to have, like, I don't know, gravity and a lot of physical elements, because we are used to a wall, and then bringing people to that other wall, we need to have like a phase of accommodation. But that world doesn't necessarily have to be like that. You see, and experimenting on all that, I think that can suddenly create experiences that are beyond of what we can think nowadays. I don't know. So for me, I think they're like a very positive vision of how far we can go in terms of creativity and experiences.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that, Jesus. We appreciate it. You're inspiring us, and I recommend that everybody look at your name on Google and consider becoming a collector of your art. Thank you very, very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. It was such a lovely meeting. We had a lunch at a restaurant at the center of Brussels under light rain. That was very memorable, and a wonderful conversation in Brussels. So, Jesus, thank you very, very much, and enjoy the evening in Brussels. Goodbye.
Thank you. It goes both well. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.